What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith at GSD Mode Studios, and I'm here with another weekly real estate tip. So today I'm here to talk to you guys about when to know inside your real estate business that it is time to hire an assistant. And then when you decide that it's time to hire an assistant, like what do you do to make sure that you find a rockstar assistant? You guys, and this is so important. Number one, you cannot continue to grow your business unless you get some help. Right? Greatness can never be achieved alone. The only way to creating a truly successful real estate business is by having a team that supports you to go out there and make that happen. And this, I'm not saying that you have to go out there and create a mega team with a bunch of real estate agents. Maybe it's just you and one or two rockstar administrative supportive assistants. Either way, if you want to continue to grow your business and increase your capacities, this becomes an essential step, but you got to learn how to do it right. All right, so real quick though, before I jump into these steps and break this down for you, make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to go below, hit that subscribe button. When you hit that subscribe button, you're going to see that bell pop up. Click that bad boy. That will alert you when anytime I release one of these new videos, any new content, that way you don't miss this great content. And as well as it helps us just grow the overall show. Now, if you're listening to this on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you're at, if you're listening to this on the audio podcast, make sure to give us a 5-star raving review. Again, that helps support the show, helps us grow the show, helps us get more eyeballs on the show, which allows us to book bigger guests for the podcast, all that fun stuff. So truly appreciate that. All right, so let's jump on into the content for today. And again, we're here to talk about when you know it's right, when the timing is right. Like, when should you hire an assistant? And then once you are at the point when you're ready to hire an assistant, how do you go out there and find a great assistant? And this is extremely important, guys. If I were to break down like the biggest mistake that I've made over my, going on 14 and a half, 15-year career now in the real estate business, that's cost me millions of dollars, it would be this: not getting this down sooner in my real estate career. It's one of these things where something that's really important to understand and know, and you may not understand this or believe it until you're in the position, but those of you that have been hiring for some time, know what this is like, right? But your ability of being a great business owner and a great team leader, meaning the ability, and I don't care, when I say team leader, this applies to brokerage owners, team leaders, it doesn't matter, right? What I mean is you're now more than one, right? So that's a team. Right? For me to run a brokerage, I have to have a team of staff and amazing people to help support that and do that. Same with the real estate team, right? So I know those names, it gets confusing in our business, which is really one of the only industries that we have to deal with that. But your ability of being a great team leader, meaning leading your support team, has nothing to do with your ability to create success in your real estate business as an individual real estate agent, right? It has nothing to do with how many homes that you've sold, right? You have to become a good leader. You got to become good at systems and processes. You got to become good at developing your training protocols. You got to become good at hiring, right? So let's break all of this down for you here. And I wanted to chunk this down into specific steps and also do them somewhat in order, if you will. That way you could just follow along with this and make it easier to kind of digest. All right, so the first step here, number one, is you want to hire out of necessity, not out of want. There's nothing wrong with wanting to expand your business. There's nothing wrong with wanting to create a team. However, you don't pull the trigger on it until it is necessary, right? So you need to be at a capacity where it then makes sense to go out there and hire somebody. So if you're going closing 12, 15 deals a year on your own, or even 20 deals, 24 deals on your own, you're probably not ready to go out there and hire a full-time assistant. Yeah, right? That doesn't mean that you can't get support, right? That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be outsourcing, somebody to go install your signposts and lockbox, somebody to go take your professional photos, right? A great bridge until you're ready to hire a full-time assistant that's going to be full-time for you is outsourcing your TC work, paying somebody $350 a file to handle all the contract to close stuff. And that way you're only paying out of that successful closing, or $100 for listing input, or whatever that may be in your area, your office. So you want to be at a capacity. And for most real estate agents, find this to usually be that 3 or 4 consistent deals per month. right? So for me, it was 4. Did 48 deals my first year. Right after that, I ended up hiring an assistant. And the reason being, again, I was at a capacity. I couldn't fathom I wanted to double my business the next year. I'm like, there's no way for me to do that without me delegating out the non-money making activities. Like I got to figure out, hey, how do I pay this person 15 or 20 bucks an hour or whatever your pay is, and we'll talk about that a little bit here. But whatever that pay is, right? When I can go out there and when I'm doing my money making activities, making $100 an hour, right? How can I get them to take off the non-money making activities? So you want to be at a point where, again, it is a necessity inside your business. Then next, you want to also make sure you're financially ready. It's not just about the number of deals that you're closing. You also want to make sure that you're financially ready, right? Because look, you're going to, let's just say it takes you 3 weeks to hire somebody, right? To go through all the interviews and finally hire that person. Well, then from there, depending on their experience, it can take 60, 90, 120 days to get them fully dialed in. And when I say fully dialed in, where they're plugging away their 40 hours a week, and now you bought back that 40 hours a week for you to focus on solely on money-making activities, right? So when you look at that, okay, I got a month to hire somebody. Let's just say it's 3 months to get them fully trained and onboarded. Now I'm at 4 months before now I'm able to invest all those 40 hours a week into setting more appointments, more lead gen, right? Taking on more clients. And then from there, we're in a business, you guys, that all of you know that are watching this, where it can take everything that you do now today, you don't see the fruits of that for 3 or 4 months, right? So when we calculate all that, man, it can take 6, 8, 9 months before you're going to start seeing a big return on that assistance, what you're paying for that assistant, right? Which, if you look at this, like you need to get an ROI, just like if you're doing paid advertising, paid marketing, right? Like you stick $1 in, you expect to get 3, 4, 5, whatever you're getting back from that, but you want an ROI. Same thing with an assistant. Let's just say I'm paying a great assistant. Maybe my total company cost, not just what I pay them, but my company cost, let's just say is 40 grand a year. Well, dude, that time that person buys me back, I should then be able to increase my net profits by, let's just say, 120 or 150 grand a year, right? So make sure that you're financially ready. So how you do that is, and you guys, when I say financially ready as well as the need, not just a want, I always recommend to have at least 4 consistent straight months that is tracked, that is measured, that is consistent at your capacity with number of deals, and at the financial aspect where you're financially ready. So then, all right, so if I've got 4 months of consistent business each month for 4 months straight, that's tracked, that's measured, right? Then I know I can duplicate it. It isn't just a fluke. Look, for us real estate agents, man, we're already overly optimistic people, and that's not a bad thing, but it can absolutely hurt the hell out of us in staying in business, right? Because we have a big month, we think it's the new norm, we think, oh, well, man, if I'm gonna hire this person, I can go do all this stuff, even though we haven't created that success yet, right? So you gotta make sure, you gotta be smart about this, right? And smart for your business, but also you gotta be responsible for that person that you're hiring, right? Because they could have accepted another job. Like you can't take somebody on. I meet a lot of real estate agents that are hiring, they're like, well, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'm like, dude, that's a very piss poor fucking attitude, right? In my opinion. I get it, right? Okay, if worst case it doesn't work out, and I get the willingness to take on risk. However, you got to think about that other person, right? They could have just missed out on another opportunity. That was a great opportunity for them. You got to think about them and their family as well. So don't be selfish when you're looking at this, right? So with the financial aspect, it's like, okay, hey, I've got enough revenue coming in where I can cover all my business expenses, I can cover the new total costs to my assistant, and it's not just if you're paying somebody $15 an hour, it's not just that, right? Like you gotta look at, I've got it down here, maybe I'll just kind of fast forward and combine these two together, but when you look at payroll, right? Like let's just say this is gonna be a full-time W-2 employee that's in your office. Well, you got payroll tax, Social Security tax, right? You got just the cost of ADP payroll, however you're going through. So, a $3,000 a month salary employee might cost you $3,500 or $3,700. Then you got benefits, all that other stuff that comes into play. So know those total costs, right? So I got my current business costs plus the cost of this new staff member and employee. Then, right, whatever's left after that, I got to make sure I'm allocating and paying taxes out of that. Then from there, it's like, okay, what's left? Like, can I live on that? And then before you hire the person, like make sure like the revenue that you coming in right now covers all of that, and that you can again sustain that for 6 to 9 months without having an increase of business revenue coming in, right? That's how you become financially ready and do this financially smart. You know, when I hired my first assistant, I was bringing in about $25,000 a month gross. Well, my business expenses were a couple grand a month. Yeah, right. My business expenses a couple grand a month. My personal expenses, I can't remember what they were. It was a long time ago, like 13, 14 years ago. But let's just say that those were $4 grand, right? So I had an abundance of revenue that I could then pay this person without that stress, without depleting my reserves, right? And give it that time to train them properly, to take the time for them to do what they've got to do. And eventually buy back my time where I can be focused on getting into action money-making activities. And that's another thing I should add here. I don't have it as one of these steps, but where people get in trouble with delegation, right? A lot of people talk about delegation, and I know it's a fun, sexy thing that we all want to do, and it's nice to talk about. But look, dude, you can't just kick up your feet, right? Like, okay, if I am hiring this person to go out there and work 40 hours a week, because we're talking about an internal assistant. Now, I'm saying full-time, you might hire somebody part-time, whatever, it's all the same process, but I'm not talking about, this isn't a pieced out deal. This is, you have to meet payroll every single 2 weeks, whether you're making money or not. Yeah, right? I lost my train of thought there slightly, but you want to, it'll come back to me as we have this dialed in, but you want to make sure that, I know where I was going with that, right? Maybe we can cut that out. All right, so you want to then make sure, like, you can't just kick up your feet, right? Like, you've got to, once that person's on board and all those things I've talked about, like, I've got to reinvest that time. So if somebody's buying me back, if I'm paying them for 40 hours a week of time, that's 40 hours a week now of money-making activities. And what are real estate agents' money-making activities? It's your activities that lead to you setting appointments. So that's your lead gen, lead follow-up, your appointment conductions, and negotiating contracts, right? So I just bought me back 40 hours a week to do those 3 things. And even if you're a shitty realtor with 40 hours a week doing those 3 things, like fully devoted to those 3 things, that's at least 4 closings a month, right? Like, you'd have to be very shitty to not, with 40 hours a week, not to close an extra deal a week, right? There's no reason that 40 hours shouldn't equate to at least 1 deal. Because you got to remember, now they're handling all the contract to close, all of that stuff. All right, so then from there, once all of those are ready, then you need to make sure that you have your systems and processes dialed in internally inside your business. And I know that this isn't the fun, sexy thing to talk about, but it's so important, right? One of the reasons that so many people fail, I talk with so many team leaders, and when I ask them, what's your biggest issue and obstacle inside your business? The common thing that I hear is, I can't find great people. I can't get great help, right? Whenever I hear that, that's just a red flag to me that they have absolute shitty processes and systems dialed in place, right? That's typically almost always it. Sometimes it could be that you just got a bad person, but that's usually not the case. If you take your time to interview right and hire the right person, it's usually bad systems. I don't care how great the person is. If they don't have great systems and processes to follow, they can't go out there and create success. So how do you do that? Okay, well, I'm going to make a list, and I have very, very clearly defined everything that they're going to be doing when I hire them, right? So here's everything that they need to do, right? Well, up to this point, you have been doing all of these activities yourself, right? So just as you are doing them, take the time to document what you're doing. Screen record it on your computer, right? Create a Google Drive doc where you're listing out the steps, right? So then it's like, okay, hey, I just got a new listing. Here's how I turn it into the broker. Right, here's how I order up my photos. Here's how I order up my signpost. Right, all that time I'm screen recording. I'm saying what I'm doing. So now I'm creating a video library and checklist for all of these things for them to do. So then now they have references and resources to go to. So you don't have to sit there and every single time, oh, here's how you put a listing. Here's how you input a listing. They should be watching this in a video library, right? And they have checklists to do it. So you have the checklists. Plus the video resources to be able to do these things. So make sure you got your systems and processes dialed in. Like, for example, we've got our 17-step contract to close process, which ends up being about 58 different action items throughout that contract to close. This is to be done on these specific dates, right? And that's under contract. Our buyer-seller clients are getting an update every Tuesday and Friday. And then here is exactly what those updates look like, right? Here's what's in the email. Here's what's said. Here's, what the assistant needs to do to get all that stuff. Like, you have to have that very clearly defined, eliminate the guesswork. All right, so then the next thing is make sure to have the accurate and right expectations. So I talked about this earlier, right? Where if I hire somebody, so we go through a full 90-day onboarding process with a transaction coordinator. So I'm going to utilize this as an example. And I don't care if they're seasoned or brand new, have never been in real estate, and they're, right, this is a new venture from them. It doesn't matter. Everybody goes through this because we want them overtrained and to be dialed in, right? So it's a full 90 days before they are actually touching files on their own without everything being inspected, whatever. Now, we still inspect what we expect. Every file and things still get QC'd, right? But let's just say you hire that person, and again, I talked about this earlier, it takes a month to go through the interview processes, right? Then all of a sudden, it's 90 days to train them, so now you got 5 months, or 4 months, 4 full months, before that person is on their own. You're able to set them free, rock and roll. You might be checking in daily and again QCing, but checking in daily for 15 minutes. But now you essentially bought back 7 hours and 45 minutes of your day to just go out there and ramp up with your money-making activities. But even then, it's going to be another 3 or 4 months before you see an uptick of income. So it can easily be 6 to 9 months before you start seeing that big ROI. So set right expectations. Just like, for example, if you were going to start doing Facebook ads, or let's just say direct mail, whatever. It's like, dude, like any new marketing source, I'm gonna commit to going at it for 6 full months before I pull it, or make a decision on to scale it, to yank it, whatever, right? I'm gonna set those right expectations because it just takes time to test this stuff. All right, so then from there, I know we already talked about systems and processes, but now you need to have a system for the hiring process, right? Okay, how am I gonna find this person? Right? Like, when am I going to run my ad? What's the interview process going to be? How am I going to know if this is the right person? As well as your training and onboarding process, right? And you got to be very careful with this, you guys, because when you hire them, like, dude, you can't spend 40 hours a week in the office training them, right? Because then either that, or you're working 80, 120 hours a week, which you may or may not want to do, right? Or if you don't have the right things in place, the right resources, videos for them to watch, whatever, now you're not able to go out there and produce, and your income dips, and it's going to get you in trouble. So make sure that you have your system dialed in for that, and you have a game plan for that. Now, here is my 4RD document. This is the process I go through, and this is really important, you guys. All of these other things are really like the foundation to lead to this step. Well, I got one more after this. I know we kind of already talked about payroll, but I want to talk about payroll just for another second here, because there's a few things just tactically as you set this up that you want to pay attention to. So with this, this is how I get very clear on who I want to hire, right? What the skill sets, requirements, all that stuff are. So 4RD, I'm not very creative, so there's 4 R's and 1 D. So the first thing is I'm going to get very clear on what is the role. I get asked all the time, like, hey, Josh, man, do you have like a checklist for what it should be for your first assistant? No. Right? Because everybody that I hire, now I could give you what mine are, right? But it's going to be different for you than it is for me. We all have different unique strengths, weaknesses, all of this, right? So what I want to do, and this is what I do with, I don't care if it's the janitor or a CEO of one of my companies that I'm looking to hire for, this is the process I go through. So again, what is the role that this person's going to have? So, and roles can be, administrative assistant, transaction coordinator, whatever you want to, call that role. That's not so important, but we want to get that somewhat defined, right? Then from there, okay, what are the responsibilities that this person is going to have? So with the responsibilities, it's like, okay, hey, this is going to be your systems and processes, your checklist. Okay, well, they're going to be in charge of all contract to close, right? Everything from A to Z in contract to close, updating the clients, right? Listing input, getting weekly showing feedback. Maybe it's doing the commission instructions. Maybe it's, doing your mass emails and helping scrub your CRM, whatever it may is, right? Write out all those responsibilities. So with my first assistant, guys, and think about this, like now I've got assistants and each role in the business. So if you look at my real estate team, it's like, okay, I have 2 full-time transaction coordinators, a full-time listing coordinator, a full-time, office general manager, right? We have a recruiter, in addition to all of our agents. But then in addition to that, like, I also have my own personal executive assistant, right? That helps me in business, but also personal. So like, that's just like for me to get shit done in any aspect of my life, along with, she helps me in all my businesses, right? So before I was able to hire an executive assistant, like my first admin, my first assistant in my real estate company, part of their roles was like, okay, hey, I got a buyer appointment at 3 o'clock today that I'm gonna go take out and show properties to. Right? I need you to take my car, get it gassed up with gas, take it through the car wash, right? Go pick up, drop off my dry cleaning, whatever, because that was still a better use of their time than mine, right? So while they're spending the 3 hours out there doing that, how many calls can I get done, or follow-up calls, or whatever, and appointments can I set, and meetings can I go in that 3 or 4 hour time? So don't think when it's responsibilities, don't think this just has to be business, right? Like, you got to, like, everything is, it's like Jay-Z's, famous rap lyric, which is, I am my business man, right? So you are your business, personal and business. It's like, how can you free up time to go out there and operate in the most important and highest uses of your time to drive in revenue to the company, right? So I want to get very clear on the responsibilities and make a list of all of those things, right? And you can reverse engineer this. Like, what is the highest and best use of your time? So for most real estate agents, right, that's going to be maximizing your time with your lead gen and lead follow-up. So you're setting appointments, activities that lead to setting appointments, appointment conductions, and negotiating contracts. But maybe you have to do other things like content creation, like you're the face of the business, so you might be shooting the videos, but they can distribute and publish the videos, right? Like, I show up here and I do all these videos, but I'm not the dude editing the videos. I'm not the dude pushing them out on all the channels and all the social media channels. My team does all that shit. I just show up, right? So get very clear first on what it is that your highest and best use of time is, right? And then build their responsibilities around that, which that then, like, dude, at the end of the day, you're a whole entire team. So all your staff, everybody exists to allow you to do and stay in your own lane and be fully focused on with all your time, energy, effort into where your time is best used in the company, which drives growth of the company, right? And they're doing everything else. And they do everything else brilliantly to make sure that you are able to stay in your lane. So in all my companies right now, I only do 3 things, right? Which is strategy, marketing, and content creation. Everybody else does everything else. Right? Like, I just make sure I stay in those 3 lanes every day, all day long, because that's my highest and best use of my time. Then the third R is requirements. All right, what are the requirements this person must have to make sure that these responsibilities happen? Right? And that can be, like, it isn't just technical skill sets. Okay, hey, maybe they need to be pretty savvy online, right? Maybe you have to have them do a typing test, right? Like, if in this day and age, I don't want an assistant that has to finger peck a keyboard. Like, I want them to be able to type, have decent computer skills, right? I want them to have, especially with my real estate assistants that are touching the files, like my listing coordinators and transaction coordinators, they have to have extreme attention to detail, right? They can't be missing an initial. They can't be missing a piece of paper. Like, they have to be like freaks about detail. Right? So what are the requirements? But this can also be personality. This could be, okay, hey, I want them to have this DISC score. I want them to, be energetic and, have be very kind and a nice personality, right? Be service-oriented and service-based, where to them, like, they care about service way more than just the paycheck, right? So we're getting very clear on those requirements. Then the fourth R is results. All right, so let's just say day 91. You've got them all hired, you got them all trained, onboarded, they're rock and roll, now you're ready to set them free. So we'll call that day 91, right? So what are the results that they are expected to produce every day, every week, every month, where they are winning, and it makes sense for you to keep them in that position and role, right? You got to, everybody that works for you has to know what winning or losing looks like. They need to know, hey, am I winning or am I losing? Right? So you want to get very, very clear on what those results are, articulate that to them, and then inspect what you expect on those results. And then the last one here is the D, which is just the details, right? So the details are, okay, is this full-time, part-time? Do they need to be in the office? Can this be somebody that's virtual? Whatever. What's the pay gonna look like? Those are all the details, right? Then you guys, I will spend as long as it takes on this document. I create the avatar for this person before I even go out there and start looking for them. So in my head, it's like when I walk in the office and I see them, like what happens, right? What's their energy like? What's their personality like? How, like I'm playing out scenarios in my head of how I want them to operate. Okay, in this scenario, let's just say a client calls in that's pissed off. Like how would they handle that? Right? Get very specific with these scenarios and create that person in your head. So you've got the ideal hire. So then from there, you start to know and you're very clear on, again, the responsibilities, the requirements, the results, what this person is. So now you know exactly, you're very clear on the exact person that you want during the interview process. This also allows you to set up tests, right? So then now I have tests set up during the interview process based on, it's like, hey, how can I get clarity where I can become fully certain that this person's the right fit for the job? But when I've already created that person in my head, it's very easy to do, right? So I'll have 3 or 4 tests and just the resume part of the process, right? Then I'll have multiple tests that they don't even know of, but as I'm setting the first interview, right? And then we'll have a first in-person interview, then we'll have a second team interview, and then we have kind of like a final test before we bring them on. So all of these things become absolutely critical. Last thing on payroll, I already talked about this slightly. I use ADP online payroll, which I'm a big fan of or love. Doesn't really matter who you utilize, but get with your CPA and see how you should set this up. Like, should you incorporate? What should payroll look like? Just make sure that you're set up correctly there and you know all of what that looks like so you can actually run like a legitimate business. All right, guys, I hope that you found this content information helpful today. Real quick before we go, make sure to check us out at gsdmode.com where you can check out more great videos just like this. Check out growmyrealestatebusiness.com, which is my 3-hour in-depth online masterclass where I show you everything that I know, top lessons learned over my 14-plus year career, and everything that I know and again I've learned to become one of the top real estate agents and team leaders on the planet. Everything's free on there. Show you exactly what to do to have success on the training, as well as I give you everything for after the training to execute on to implement what you just learned to have success. So check that out. Check out our GSD Mode Podcast Real Estate Agent private Facebook group where you can mastermind with a lot of other like-minded peeps just like yourself. No selling happening in there, no spam, no junk, all just, it's a great community to help you, again, continue to level up. So thank you so much for watching. Keep kicking ass, and I'll see you next time. Peace.